In this video I'm gonna share the 3 books that completely changed my way of living, helping me transition from city to cabin life, on a personal level but also professional. These 3 books are very different from each other, so I put them in 3 different categories: philosophical, career and health. If you're new here, my name is Kalle and I moved out to this little log cabin in the middle of nowhere about 3 years ago. It's a very simple lifestyle and we have no running water, so if we feel like taking a shower, we have to do that outside, in the snow. When I moved out here, I suddenly got a lot more time on my hands, way more than I was ever used to before, because I didn't have to go to a regular 9-to-5 job anymore. And I sat and thought about, like, what should I do with all the time? And what I always came back to is that I want to educate myself. And that for me means listening to podcasts, meeting new interesting people, discovering and learning from new books. So that's what we're gonna do today. Learn from new books. We're gonna head inside and then let's talk some books. Since this is 3 books, we're gonna have a top 3 list. Starting of course with number 3 and then going to number 2 and then number 1. And at the very, very top of the list is a book that it's hard to put into words sometimes. That book completely changed my view of the world. It was like seeing The Matrix for the very, very first time. Or as this review says, there is the world before this book and there's the world after this book. But more on that later. Now we're gonna stop with number 3. Breath, the new science of a lost art. As I told you before, I divided them into 3 categories, and this one falls in the category health. And I'm gonna read from the very top of the back of the book. No matter what you eat, how much you exercise, how skinny or young or wise you are, none of it matters if you're not breathing properly. And this book got me thinking about breathing. It may sound like the most obvious thing to do in the world, like we just breathe without thinking about it. But during and after reading this book, I discovered a new way of breathing. I thought about how I was breathing and how I can also improve my own breathing to exercise and just live. My breathing works as it is now, but the way I'm breathing from now on, after reading this book, is just so much healthier for me and the body. The headline of the book says, The New Science of a Lost Art. I wouldn't say it's that much of a science, maybe. James Nestor, the author, he's a journalist. He's trying a lot of methods on himself. Maybe that's science, I don't know. But I would say it's more experimental, where he tried different methods on himself and he shares that experience with you as a reader. And I got to learn so much. I never thought about how different it could be breathing through the nose and how you can use different techniques for that. And the sleeping patterns. I also discovered new ways of eating that might sound weird, but actually what we're eating in the modern world are so soft. You know, where everything is processed or mushed together. We're not having the crunch that stuff used to have, like texture in the meat or really stiff carrots, or yeah, you know what I mean. And the problem with that is that if the food is too soft, our jaws, you know, these ones are not gonna work as much as they should do. So we've actually started implementing more chewy food in our diet. And what that means with the jaws, this is really hard to explain, I figure out now when I'm talking about it out loud, but what that helps with is shaping the mouth so it has an easier time to breathe. I already have I'm on the minus, because when I was a teenager, like 16, 17 or something, I got braces and they also pulled out 4 teeth. One up here and then one down here, one up here and then one down here. And the problem with that is that the braces push all my teeth together and made them very they're very straight and nice today. But the problem is that my tongue doesn't actually really fit in my mouth as it should. And that's conflicting with my breathing and it doesn't really help. But thanks to these techniques, it gets easier, of course. But I got very, very aware of my breathing, and that's the reason I wanted to share this book with you as well, because I think a lot of people has a lot to learn from learning how to breathe again, like rediscovering that lost art. The next book is called Company of One: Why Staying Small is the Next Big Thing for Business. And as you might have guessed, this is the career category of these 3 books. When I took my hobby of filmmaking, for example, and made it into my full-time living, this is the book I wish I read back then, because it would have saved me so much time, energy, and frustration. I actually started my own company back in 2011. Back then, I had no idea what I was doing. I was guessing my way through the world. But the reason I got into starting my own company and being self-employed was thanks to my parents. My mom is still self-employed to this day, and my dad has been most of his year in business as well. One thing that I thought was the coolest thing on earth growing up was a thing that my dad did. I was a kid back then, just a few years, and he was about to head off to work in Stockholm, the main city of, or main capital of Sweden. And I just, went up to Dad and asked, like, Dad, do you think you can take some time off work so we can spend some time together? He was like, yeah, I have to call my boss and check if that's okay. So my dad walked up to the wall, grabbed the phone and dialed a number. And then a few seconds later, his cell phone rang. So he picked that up. Hi, this is Lars. Oh, hi, yeah, this is also Lars. I wanted to check if I can take some time off to spend with my son. Yeah, of course you can, but it's good that you check with your boss so everything is okay over here as well. Yeah, of course, but yeah, I'm going back to play with my son, is that okay? Yeah, of course. And then he hung up both phones. I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever, that he could be in control over his own decision and his own time, how he wanted to spend it. And that really inspired me so much as I'm sitting here even today talking about it. And that got me inspired to start my own company years later, of course, but that was the seed of understanding that maybe 9 to 5 isn't the way for me. But let's go back to the book a bit, not just my own life experience. The author of this book, he was in the corporate world, the business world, but he left that, working for really, really important clients, and then stepped down because he realized that the high pressure of big business wasn't suitable for him. He realized that 9 to 5 even wasn't for him. And again, he made me realize through this book that why I chose this lifestyle of being self-employed, because the reason I always come back to is that I want to control my own time. What I hated about the jobs was not when I was working in stores and for clients before, wasn't that I didn't enjoy what I was actually doing maybe, but I wasn't enjoying it because I couldn't decide over my own time. And this book completely changed my view on how I should look at 9 to 5, how I should look at my own business, and how I can grow it in a sustainable way. Because growing a company bigger doesn't necessarily mean better. Growth is not bad, but growing it in a sustainable way. And just to be clear, you can have a company of one even if you're in a bigger company as well. You can have your own little small company of one in a big company, or you can be self-employed. Next book is Ishmael, An Adventure of Mind and Spirit. So now we're at the top of the list, and this is the philosophical one. And this is the book I mentioned at the beginning that completely changed my view of the world, like seeing the Matrix for the very first time. But I don't want to give away too much of this book. I just want to give you a sales pitch so you understand why you need to read this book. And I'm gonna read directly from my phone because I found a review of the book online on YouTube yesterday from a librarian, because I had a really hard time putting this book into words and explaining it, what it actually is about and what it actually has meant to me. In the opening of this book, the narrator sits down in his chair, opens up a big magazine and then reads an ad. Teacher seeks pupil, must have earnest desire to save the world, apply in person. And that person reading the magazine, the narrator, was like, he was so pissed off because he'd been seeking for a teacher for a very long time, trying to understand the world, but all the people he had met so far was just fake and phony. So he went down to that place, as I said, apply in person. So he went down to the address that it says, found only one person there, and he said, all right, I'm here. What do you teach? I teach captivity, says the teacher back. Captivity? But the ad said, you must have an earnest desire to save the world. What has captivity to do with saving the world? And then the teacher, Ishmael, says back, amongst the people of your culture, how many wish to destroy the world? And the man thinks a bit, and then he says, I don't think I know anyone who wants to destroy the world. Ishmael looks at him and says, and yet you are, every day, by your actions. Does this need explanation? And the man says, no, not to me. Excellent. So why don't you stop? And the man thinks again for a long time and finally says, we don't know how to stop. The teacher looks at the man saying, precisely. You're held captive by a system, by a story that basically compels you to destroy the world in order to live in it. If you like to save the world, shouldn't you find out what's keeping you captive? And the book is about exploring what he meant by that. This book is raising a lot of questions, uncomfortable questions, things you never thought of was a problem until you actually stopped up and thought about them. The teacher asks the student a lot about modern society, and it forces him to look at his own life, but also other people's lives around him, like in a way he never thought about before. And that's when I want to give this book to you as a recommendation, because it made me look at the world from a completely different angle. Now we have arrived at the very, very best part of this video, the part where you get to listen to one of these books for free, thanks to the sponsor of this video, Audible. Visit audible.com/Kalle Flodin or text Kalle Flodin in one word to 500 500 and you will get one free audiobook and 30 days free trial. And right now, for a limited time, save 60% on your first 3 months on Audible. That's less than $6 a month. I'm honestly so happy that they want to sponsor this video because I've been using Audible for years now. I can easily say that it's my most used app on my phone. I use it every single day. Audible has an unbeatable selection of audiobooks, tons of podcasts and exclusive originals. Perfect for commuting, at the gym, long road trips, or in my case, just cozying up by the fire or following along on my walks with the dogs. As an Audible member, you will get 1 credit every month to spend on whatever title you want in their entire premium selection. That can be the latest bestseller, it can be new releases, and it can also be that book you've been, having on your bucket list a bit too long. I don't know if you're like me, but once I found a book that I really like and learned a lot from, I usually go back to it at least once a year or something. And the best thing with Audible, when you've picked up a book there, it's yours to keep forever. If you sign up now, you as a member will also have access to the all-new Plus catalog, where they have thousands of audiobooks, podcasts, Audible originals, meditation programs, guided fitness, sleep track for better rest, and much more. And all of this is included with the membership. To get your free audiobook and 30 days free trial, you can just click the link right up there, or go to audible.com/Kalle Flodin. And it would be really fun if you can comment down below as well which one of my recommendations you're gonna listen to first. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.